In the following video, we are going to see how to build an AI brain for your company. This is a really powerful way of searching information across different parts of the business. So in this way, we can actually search for SOP all the time without any kind of problem. So in this way, you can store information into a database such as Airtable, take that information, put it into a AI digestible content, and search of this information or perform any kind of action with that information using natural language, using natural queries. Let's start build. In order to create an AI company brain, there are a couple of key points that we need to keep into consideration. First off, we need to create a centralized knowledge repository. So this actually means having a single place, a single database where we store all the different information. This could be information such as SOPs, FAQs, client call, sales call, whatever kind of information that we want to search. So for this, we will use Airtable as an example. The second point over here is that we need to make this information accessible to the AI. What we will need to do on a technical level will be to add this information to a knowledge database, and we're gonna see how to do that. And finally, we have the last part, which is retrieving this actual information on a use cases. We're gonna use natural language, and we're gonna create a use case where we will retrieve the information directly through Slack. I have a specific use case that we will go through, and this use case involves finding the SOP in an easy way directly through Slack. The workflow is very simple. We ask a question in Slack, and then we get back a relevant SOP from our database. In this way, we don't need to waste time, and neither of our team needs to waste time in finding different files stored all around Google Drives, Google folders, and things like that. First off, what we're gonna do is we're gonna start by creating a decentralized knowledge repository, and then we're gonna also create the AI database. Here, what I did is I created an example database that we can use to have different information such as getting API keys or any specific workflows that we need to do within the business, and we're gonna use this as test data. I'm using Airtable for this, and potentially what you can do over here is you can have SOP, you can add another table for like sales calls, and then add the specific information directly over here, such as what was the summary of the call, what were a couple of criteria about the person, how was the qualification done, and all information like that, which is key because we can store this information and we can retrieve this information later. But for now, we will focus on the SOP. Once we have the SOP created in the internal database, we need to create also the knowledge base to store this information and to make this AI accessible. What we're gonna use is we're gonna use Quadrant for this. And so Quadrant is a tool that allows to store any kind of vector information or any kind of information that we have within a database so that we can easily retrieve that using AI. And what we're gonna do here will be to create first off a collection within Quadrant. Let's go to Quadrant documentation so we can see what is the easy way to create a collection. And a collection basically is a way where we store all the information related to a specific topic. For example, we can have a collection related to SOP, we can have a collection related to sales calls. And so in this way, we can actually differentiate what we're actually talking about. Let's start by creating a collection here, and I will go to the make account in order to create a connection over here. We'll create a new scenario, type Quadrant over here, and what we can do is we can use an API call. We will need to add a new connection over here, and so we will call this YouTube. We will need an API key. In order to get an API key over here in Quadrant, after you create the cluster, which is where all the information is present, you will also need to create an API key. I already have created mine over here, so we will take this API key over here, add it over here, and then we need to also add the Quadrant URL, which is this URL over here. So let's add this into this so that we can have this information. Now we will need to create the collection. So what we're gonna type will be collection / collections / collection name. Let's do that. And for collection name, we're gonna put whatever name we want. So let's put SOP, for example. The method here will be put, so we will need to do this. And then finally, within the request, we need to add information such as the vector information displayed in the following way. So I'm gonna copy this part over here and add this part over here. For the size here, since we will use OpenAI, the size will be 1536, and you can check this by going to OpenAI embeddings, and over here you can look at what is the number of elements that are present within an embedding. Generally, it depends on the model, but generally this is 1536. After we have this, we just run this, and so we created a new collection over here. And I got it wrong, so let me fix this 1 second. And let's run it again. So everything worked right now, and we created a new collection. So if we go back to Quadrant over here and we access the database, we will see that we will have a new collection over here. After we finalize creating the database, it's time to go to step 1 and to step 2. So in the first step, what we need to do is we need to add all the information to a knowledge database. Meanwhile, in step 2, what we need to do is we need to search those information into the knowledge database. Let me show you a couple of examples that I already created over here. What we do over here is we look at the Airtable, we look at all the information that is present. We create the text embeddings, so in this way we transform the name of the SOP into an array of vectors. So we have 1536 vectors over here that create semantic representation of what this actually means. And after that, we need to transform this into JSON. The reason for that is that the API doesn't work correctly within make.com, so that is why we need to do that. We also transform the nodes because in this Airtable setup, what we have is we have the name, we have the department, we have the SOP itself, which is a URL, as well as we have the nodes. We need to transform those. And finally, we send all this information to this points endpoint, which is the endpoint that will upsert all the information. What we do over here is we do the points. For the ID, we use this unique identifier. For the payload, we add all the information that is present within our table. If you don't know, the payload basically is the additional information that we can give to the vector to actually enrich the information that it has available. The vector is the part that will be used to do the similarity search. If you have a phrase and you want to search for another phrase, what you will search is the phrase that closely matches that. And the payload instead will be the additional information that are related to what you are actually searching for. So in this way, we can enrich the data with things such as the name, the department, the SOP, the nodes, and whatever. And finally, here we have the vector itself. And yeah, finally, the only thing that we do over here into the database, into Airtable, is we make sure that this is added to the SOP. And so we don't have any kind of problem in the future for understanding which is added, which is not added, and we don't need to rerun this. And as you can see over here, we added the formula so that only the records which are not added into the database are actually considered. This is the step number 1, the ingestion part. Now we have the step number 2, which is the search part, and I'm gonna also show you an example of the search part right now. The search part is performed through Slack. So within Slack, what we did is we created this testing assistant. By the way, I have a video on how to create those assistants. We added a slash command to this testing assistant, and we added this slash command over here called SOP that helps us find the SOP reference. Over here, what we have is the following. When the slash command is triggered, let me actually show you that so we can actually have a look at that. So we type SOP, find the guide on how to get a Stripe API key. So this gets started, and in a second we will receive the response directly into this SOP automation part that we created. Let me first show you how this actually works. First off, over here we get the text itself. So the text, find me a guide on how to get the Stripe API key. Over here, we transform the query into an embedding. The reason why we do that is so that we can use this embedding to search across the vectors that we already have present. So in this way, what we can actually do is we can search for similar vectors. And over here, we have a couple of things, such as the query itself. We have a limit of the number of SOP that we could search, and we also have a score threshold. So the score threshold, it's something that helps us understand what is the threshold that we have in regards to similarity, or how closely is similar to what we are looking for. So if we go over here and we see the points, we just saw one single element with a score of 0.72, which is more than this 0.65. So that is why this passed forward. What we did then is we have this iterator over here because we want to iterate across all the different points if we have multiple. We get the point itself. So when we get the point, we get the information within the point. So the name, the department, and the SOP training. This is where the beauty happens. We transform everything into JSON here for formatting reason, and then within here we format a message. So we say here's the matching SOP, and then here we give what is the SOP name, what is the department, what is the training link. So in this way, we can actually search for SOP all the time without any kind of problem. If we don't find anything over here, we have no SOP present. As you saw over here, this is a really powerful way of searching information across different parts of the business. I just did this use case with SOPs, but keep in mind that you can create the same thing with all sort of different information, such as I mentioned above. It's just a matter of what kind of information do you want to find, and what kind of data do you want to create with that kind of information. Right now, we just performed a search, but what we can potentially do is we can perform a search, and then once we get that information, we can transform that information or manipulate that information if we have any other sort of information. That's it when it comes to the video. Hope you like this, hope you like this use case. You can find the template below. Again, if you want to work with me and if you want to implement AI brain for your company, feel free to click on the first link below, and we can talk more.